All right, here we are again for the third and last bit of our interview with Tim Richardson from Iter Consulting, talking about reshoring and nearshoring. Tim, hi again, and thanks for sticking with me for so long. And we've been talking about in the first bit about basics. Then we covered challenges and success stories, and we are now going to look at the future and really like what the future outlook, particularly from a technological perspective, is going to be looking like for companies embarking on this journey. In fact, I wanted to start with a question about the potential evolution of the very whole approach to reshoring, nearshoring, in light of the latest technological advancement. What do you think? What do you think is going to be? I mean, where are the strategies going? Are they going to stick around? Is technology going to make an impact on them? What's your thought?
I think that technology is absolutely the fundamental driver of this. At a business level, I think the complexity of the supply chain demands technology. And I think unfortunately, we're in a world where the geopolitical risks only seem to grow, and therefore fractures in the way the world is working are going to be there, whether they're short-term or long-term. I guess it will be a mixture of both. So I think there's a generation of tools, and I'll put my hand up and say, I am not the technological expert, so coming from a kind of business perspective. AI is clearly going to have a profound impact on that, and it's beginning to work into many of the tools that exist today. So I think the ability to have a complex model, the digital twin of your network, how it works, is great. But the ability to model scenarios, whether they are in precautionary terms, to say, if this happened, what would we do? Whether that be a factory disappears, got a factory in Ukraine which no longer we have access to, so how do we resupply that marketplace? Or the Red Sea again has gone, how do we reroute things, etc., or do we just physically reroute, or do we actually move the manufacturing capability, and what's the implication? So I think some of the network modeling tools at that level are really, really key. And there's clearly lots of power that exists within that, but as always in every some things never change. It's the ability to not get seduced just by the technology and be clear about what you're trying to get it to do and what questions you're trying to ask it. So I think that's one really key element. I think there's kind of elements of we are having erratic supply of parts, and the electronics over the last 2 or 3 years has been really, really key amongst that. But if you've got an embedded product, if you say I'm going to distribute and reshore my manufacturing, being able to do deep dives into the bills of material and look at the sources and kind of use the intelligence and technology, it will kind of identify what the risks are, because the risk might live 2 or 3 levels down your bill of material. It might be in your supplier. The risk is single electronic component provided for only one factory in the world. If you move your manufacturing around, you're still exposed to that same risk. So actually being able to use technology to really understand where those risks is another one. And I think that the third key driver where technology really plays strongly in my mind is as we talked in the earlier sessions, the complexity of the supply chain grows and the ability to manage it becomes key. So the technology that's existing in some of the integrated supply chain planning tools of today are critical to the success. I think the role of an ERP system has evolved and moved on. I don't see ERP systems that are providing that capability, and therefore best in breed kind of technology is a critical strategy. So your whole IT strategy is key. So technology is the absolute fundamental underpinning of being able to do what you want to do in a way that is cost effective and able to deliver the service and keep the resilience of the supply chain. So I think we're only just starting to see those technologies. We're only just starting to see the revolution that's going to come. So I think the supply chains of 10 years' time will be significantly different to today, much more complex, much more nuanced, and the managing technology will be key.
You've been talking about a number of technologies that are going to impact and influence the very way companies, in fact, perform network strategy and network planning strategy. And that is all cool, but we know that in reality, it's not that you can do like reshoring, nearshoring, or even just simply network redesign, supply network redesign. It's not something that you do overnight. So in light of that, I was wondering if you could potentially imagine a future where a company enabled by AI and digital twin could potentially continuously move their supply sources under the assumption that they have perhaps established that sort of like device agnostic, standing by type of network. So I imagine like almost like a neural network of different nodes and different factories, larger or smaller, that are effectively there and not necessarily producing. They might be idle for the company, that they are ready to produce upon the simple signal, so that sort of like supply network becomes much more dynamic.
I could envisage that. It's not something I've really given huge amounts of thought to be honest, Mirko, but I could see that the technology would allow that to happen. But I think that one of the bits you'd have to make sure, there will be critical components within any supply chain, however diffuse or consolidated it is, that are key. So there will be key relationships within there, and I think it would demand different things from your supply base as well. So you'd have to have suppliers that are capable of dealing with that way. They would have to have confidence that it's not just I'm going to be your partner today but not tomorrow. So I think there are some clarity there's issues around how you would need to maintain the relationships that are critical to your business success. For things that are commoditized, absolutely, whether you buy this part or that part, if it's an international standard part, does it actually matter? And yes, there's a dynamic of ability to be able to supply or be able to manufacture and so on and so forth. It will depend organization to organization, market to market. The more regulated markets, that's going to be much more challenging, because you've got the whole regulatory framework. There's going to be pharmaceuticals, we talked about a couple of times, the vision of just suddenly moving a drug production from here to there, because of those things are always feasible, but they're not quick and they're not simple and they're very expensive to do. So yes, more dynamic, but the nature of the market, the closer to a commodity, the more dynamic I could see that being the case.
Absolutely. So Tim, we don't have really much time left, so let's try in 30 seconds to leave the audience maybe with couple of takeaways of how they should prepare effectively to look into reshoring and nearshoring opportunities, strategies, and even the underlying technologies that go with it.
Okay.
What's your thought?
Okay, I would say number one is be clear why you're doing it and what problem you're trying to solve, what opportunity you're trying to take. Secondly, understand how you're going to manage and control that much more complex network. And thirdly, execute it in a way that is you kind of managing risk as you do so, and building contingency throughout the network that you can enact and if you need to. And then I think you need to also understand what geopolitical risks, if that's what you're doing, one of the reasons what you're trying to do and what they are, and have clear contingencies and the ability to dynamically change your supply chain as those things occur.
And we've seen a lot of that lately, unfortunately. So
unfortunately, that is true.
Okay, Tim, this was excellent. So thank you so much for staying with us and for sharing your insights. And for those who are watching this, I mean, if you want to know more, feel free to get in touch with myself or with Tim, and we'll be more than happy to have a deeper conversation with you on this. Thank you so much, Tim. It was a pleasure having you around.
Yeah, it's always good to talk, Mirko. Thank you.